Hi, my name's Gabriella. Welcome to my channel where we talk about and do loads of creative things, especially lots of theatre stuff. But today I want to talk to you about something little more on the productivity scheduling side of things, especially for people with anxiety or who are now experiencing a lot of anxiety and stress because of the current climate and situation that we're in. Hopefully we're nearing the end of lockdown, but it could be a long while until society and daily life returns to normal, and that can be incredibly stressful. This video was kind of inspired by seeing a lot of follow my schedule, or like, this is what I do in my life, this is how I'm scheduling my lockdown. I feel like it's widely known that you've got to try out loads of different schedules, see what works for you, but no one ever really seems to talk about how you go about figuring out what works for you, other than just trying loads of things and hoping for the best, hoping that one works. And that's what in particular I want to talk about today. So, the big tip, the revolutionary idea is self-reflection and awareness and self-analysis. Now that may sound really easy or completely obvious, but I'm not sure it's something people fully understand or even know how to get the most out of it. You know, being really in tune with yourself and either getting into the practice of checking in with yourself, or sometimes just being able to realize that something's wrong as opposed to just, oh, I'm just having a bad day. And then when you do realize something's wrong, how to actually pinpoint what that is so you can actually find a cause for it and then go about finding a solution. And this may sound super simple, and maybe for you it is, but a lot of the time, especially when you're in the middle of being really stressed out, it can be a lot harder than you think. So, what do you need? First thing I always like to have is a master to-do list sort of thing. I think to-do list makes it sound a bit more extreme than it actually is. It's basically somewhere I can put down everything I need to know, be aware of, etc., so that I don't forget things. Because when you're stressed, it can be easy to forget things, and I know that personally, with my anxiety at the level it is, my memory just sometimes isn't that great. I don't remember all the things I want to, so I like having somewhere where I can put down everything so that when I'm looking for things to do, or just to make sure I don't forget things really. So in a stressful time, it can just be really good to have one place you know you can go to, and there will be everything that you need, so you know you haven't forgotten anything, because that's another really stressful thing. And then the second thing we're going to need is a schedule. And when I say a schedule, I mean just like a base outline. So you can go find one of those, like, follow my schedule, see what I do. Take someone else's schedule, doesn't matter what type, just a schedule you like the look of, you like the sound of, and you figure it's gonna work for you most probably for the most part. And also that will work around any set things you have to do. First up, you're gonna take this schedule and you're gonna put in any set things that you have to do. So basically, just getting this blank schedule and filling in all your stuff that's like essential. This is what I have to do, and these are the times I have to do them, these are my deadlines, this is when I have to be at work, this is when I have to, etc. Then we're going to start making some small adjustments. So first up, anything that you know you need to change about this schedule to make it work for you. So for example, if you know that you struggle with switching off, you're going to want to schedule in some times where you have designated off time. So this is your designated relaxed time, so put that in. Or if you struggle to meet a deadline, if you have something similar coming up, maybe move things around so that you're better prepared for that deadline. Those sorts of things. Those are the changes we're talking about making first. Because then you basically have your schedule set so that it's roughly what's going to work for you. Because then you have your schedule with personalized to you, and hopefully, if this were a low stress day, if this were just any regular Tuesday, this schedule would work just fine for you. Then we're going to start using it, and we're going to start implementing this self-reflection stuff so that we can make adjustments as the needs arise. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to check in with ourselves. Could be once a day, could be multiple times a day. It could be just whenever you notice that you're feeling stressed. And if you're not used to being stressed, you might not necessarily know what your stress symptoms are, or possibly if you are, your symptoms might change with added stress or different types of stress. So if you don't know any, you could go look up some basic ones. Other ones to be aware of, like some of my common ones, are feeling tired, a lack of motivation and energy, feeling very annoyed and irritable, really bad headaches, stomachache, kind of feeling sick to your stomach sort of feeling rather jumpy or claustrophobic, especially claustrophobic or on edge, and struggling to concentrate. You might experience some and not others. For example, for years my biggest symptom of stress was just feeling sick to my stomach, like horrifically, like I was going to throw up at any minute, sick to my stomach. And I could wake up in the morning and feel like that until I went to bed that night if I was having a really stressful day. And then at one point last year, I started getting really bad headaches, and I started getting these headaches more and more often, but I wasn't getting stomach aches. So I thought, well, this can't be stress then, because my main stress symptom isn't here. If I was really that stressed out that I was getting these bad headaches, my stomach would be feeling horrific. So I actually ended up going to the doctors, getting checked out, making sure there was nothing wrong with me, because I thought there was something seriously wrong with me, and it just transpired that my symptoms were changing. And now I'm at the point where I just get a combination of both. So those are ways we can potentially notice that we are feeling stressed, even if we're not immediately like, oh my god, this thing is so clearly stressing me out. I'm not saying if you feel those things that you are definitely stressed. I'm just saying those are symptoms to look at. If you're feeling one of those things, it could be that you're stressed. It could be that you're very dehydrated and need something to drink, and that's why you've got a headache. But just things to look out for to help you know that this is a time to be checking in with yourself, seeing how you are, where you're at. And sometimes when you notice these things, it may be immediately obvious what the problem is. And if it's a pretty obvious problem, sometimes the solution's pretty obvious as well. Like if you notice you can't concentrate on one thing because you're thinking about something else, you could quite simply go do that other thing and then come back to the task you're doing. Or if it's, say, 2 tasks you've got on your schedule and you're really worried about the second one, change the second one so that it's first, so you always do that one first if you know it's going to be a more pressing issue in your mind. Other times it might not be so obvious for the cause or the solution. You may be aware that you're stressed but have absolutely no idea what the cause is, because often you can get stressed out by things that are completely unrelated to what you're doing. Your cause of stress might be something that you haven't even thought about. In these cases, you need to puzzle through and figure it out. I find it most useful to talk things through with someone else, but that isn't always possible. So you can talk things out aloud, think it through, although I find with anxiety I have a very active mind anyway, and if you simply think things, it can be quite easy to spiral those thoughts and get into negative thought patterns. So another alternative is you can write things out. You can write it down by hand or type out on a Word document. And don't be annoyed with yourself if you don't immediately manage to pick it out. Like some things you can stress over for a really long time. There are things I've stressed over for years that I can't quite get to the root of the cause or the solution just by thinking it through. So it can take a really long time, but in my experience, the majority of things, when you really talk or think or write through them, they kind of come to a logical resolution. So as I said, with not all things being connected, try not to just talk or write or think about what's actually going on. Talk about everything. Try really get on a roll and just kind of get everything that's in your brain out there. Because often what happens is when, I don't know if people notice, when you start talking, sometimes you get to a point where you just can't seem to stop talking. You just keep going and keep going and keep going. If you are of an older age and have had alcohol before, and you have experienced the feeling of the filter around your mouth just disappearing, that's the kind of thing we're aiming for right now, minus the alcohol. But basically, you just want to be getting everything that's in your brain out, because when you get on a roll, things will come out that you weren't even aware you were thinking of. And sometimes you'll be talking about something completely unrelated and suddenly you go, that's it, that's what was stressing me out. And sometimes just the act of identifying what was stressing you out can make the stress go away. I know there's been quite a few things where as soon as I've realised that's what was stressing me out, I've gone like, oh, well, that's fine then, and I've just stopped stressing. And then other times you need to come up with solutions. And coming up with solutions is sort of, at least for me, about coming up with a logical solution. Different things work for different people. Jumping in quickly, because I had gone on to just list examples of things I've done as a way of explaining how to find solutions, but looking back, I realised that because I'm so used to doing it, I don't think I've said very clearly how I found those causes and solutions. So a preface, just in case it isn't clear enough. Once I've identified the cause, I then use the same method of talking and thinking things through to go through all the possible options and solutions. Basically looking at it like it's a puzzle. It can be a bit of trial and error. You try one thing and maybe it doesn't work, so you need to go back to the drawing board. Or once you've changed things, other problems might arise and then you have to go through the whole process again. But that's how life is. Things keep changing and you have to adapt to them all the time. Also, it can be so useful to talk to someone else when you're going through all of this, as just having an outside perspective makes it so much easier to spot the problems, the causes and the solutions. So anyway, here are some of my examples. So when we first went into lockdown, I knew that I needed a schedule and I needed to relax. I also knew that when I schedule out every hour of every day, I inevitably get behind or something goes wrong and it stresses me out. So couldn't do that. What I decided to do was pick 3 things that I wanted to work on, and I would do half an hour of those each day. So 2 in the morning first thing when I wake up and 1 straight after lunch. And I had to do those things before I could do anything else. I picked yoga, French and piano. I was then free to do whatever else I wanted that day, and I had a list on the side of kind of things I wanted to do on the side. So things like singing practice, writing, YouTube videos. This worked really well for me because I had a whole load more free time, and my brain, I knew, was going to really struggle going, oh, you don't actually need to be doing anything right now, because my brain is constantly like, must be achieving. So by having 3 things that I worked on every day no matter what, even if I did nothing else that day, I still achieved 3 things. It set my morning off right, it made me feel more motivated, and because I wasn't stressed about having to do everything, I found that I quite often ended up doing more things than I might have done otherwise. So that was me knowing myself and making a schedule adjusted to something that I knew would work for me. Then the changes I made to it, I realised that I didn't have enough energy for yoga first thing in the morning, so I moved that to just before lunch. I then realised that I was struggling to focus on my French. I was stressing out a little bit. I basically kind of had a moment where I realised while doing French that I was thinking about yoga instead of French and worrying when I was going to fit yoga in. So I moved it so that I did my French after yoga, and immediately I was able to focus on my French again because I had already done yoga. The stressful thing was out the way, it was done. I then realised I was getting stressed out because I wasn't spending enough time on some of the other things I had written down that I wanted to work on in my free time. The 3 things I decided to prioritise maybe weren't the right 3 things, so I changed the French and piano out for singing and then either reading, writing. So once I was past needing that new structure to ease me into this new way of life, I actually stopped enforcing myself having to do all of these things. I didn't stop doing the yoga or singing because I had gotten into a habit with those. But everything else I've allowed to be a lot freer and not stress out if it doesn't happen. Everything is now a free time to do whatever I want, because that's basically what my life is right now. But because of that previous structure, I've gotten into a habit of doing things, so I never feel like I haven't been productive because I've always at least done my yoga and my singing practice every day. Because having things set when I don't already have a busy schedule, I find quite difficult unless it's like a habit. Like, I have to find some way of easing myself into it. suddenly going to something this is set every time. I sometimes struggle with that. I'm finding I am getting a little stressed just at the thought of all the things I want to do, like my YouTube videos or writing. I feel like I'm not necessarily putting in as much time as I could be because I have all free time, but also I want to relax. So I'm thinking about scheduling in specific days to fully concentrate on one thing, because all these things are things which I can do in blocks. I can do big chunks of them in one go. So I'm thinking about deciding that one day is dedicated to whatever. So I will do my regular few things, and then the rest of the time, whenever I'm not chilling, this is the one thing I work on. So I'm not worried about prioritizing projects and like not getting enough done, because I've prioritized the whole day for it. So that's that day, and then another day I'll prioritize something else. I decided this morning I was going to film 2 videos, so that's been my task for today. My yoga and singing is a habit now, so I've just got one task for today. That's what it feels like anyway. It's sort of going back to my original schedule for lockdown, in that I have one thing to do, or like a few things that it's like, that's my one thing if nothing else happens. It's basically just easing myself into another habit, kind of. But yeah, I'm basically taking all pressure off myself for having to do anything, really, because if I'm less stressed, then more will happen. So I'm sorry if this isn't like super comprehensive or haven't explained it in the right way, but I'm just hoping that maybe some of the things I've said can be useful. You can apply some of the things that I've talked about, and if you've realised that something's stressing you out, you think you've got a cause, but you're not sure about how to get to a solution or something, or if you have any other questions at all, if my examples for how to find a solution haven't really helped you out that much, if you've got a specific scenario that you want to ask me about, let me know in the comments. Any other questions, let me know in the comments. Like, as I said, not an expert in this area, just talking from my own experience. My experience might not be relevant to your situation, but I will do my best to help whoever I can. This is a horrible time for everyone, and I just want to try to help out as many people as possible. So yeah, I think that's kind of everything for now. I hope you're all really well and staying safe, and hopefully I'll see you in another video very soon. Thank you, bye!